This is Hard Parking, brought to you by Right Honda and Right Toyota out of Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm your host, Jhae Pfenning. Hoping all of you in the United States, like myself, had a happy Memorial Day weekend. What did we do? We went to the lake. Went to the lake 2 weeks in a row. Coming up on today's show, though, is Jimmy Jett of the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. He's going to talk to us a little bit about off-roading. As you know, I've tried to do some off-roading myself, not with a lot of success. In fact, even this last weekend, my son tried to take so he wanted to go to the lake. So he grabbed his dogs, grabbed his friend, Daria, who they're just friends. They are inseparable, but they are just friends. So whatever you want to call it, kid, got in the little car and wanted to go to the lake. So we got in our car, and my brother-in-law grabbed his family, got in their car. Thought he wanted to venture off, though, find like this really hideaway cove that we had heard about last time we were on the boat. We ended up going a little off-road, and it really wasn't much. More fire trails, for those of you who know what that is. It's kind of a few rocky roads, primitive roads is what they're called, them. But we're not doing any rock climbing or any Moab stuff or anything crazy like Jimmy does all the time. So a lot of fun. A lot of fun getting lost. Drove around for a couple hours, decided this was not the direction we wanted to go. So what did we do? We turned around, went right back to the water where we should have been the first time. That was our weekend. Cooked a little ribs for the family. Family came over. Oh, watched Maverick. Saw Maverick. Excellent movie. It's got a 99 by the people, which is pretty cool. The critics went from 97 to 96, but a movie like that, I'm shocked the critics loved it so much. It's not like it's a bad movie. It's an awesome movie, but usually it just doesn't seem like a movie the critics would like that much, but they loved it. You don't have to watch the original Top Gun to understand the movie. They do an excellent job of filling in those gaps for those who forgot or just are too young to remember or just whatever the case. It helps if you watch the first movie, if you watch Top Gun, but it is an 80s macho type of movie where every kid that watched it wanted to join the Navy so they could fly the jets. Almost every kid. Everybody was Maverick or Goose. But one of the things, so I was watching it with my brother-in-law this weekend. We were watching Top Gun, not Maverick. I saw that already, but he didn't, because he's younger than I am. He didn't really realize there's so many pop culture one-liners that came from that movie. There's so many songs that are so popular that people know the words to. They don't realize it. It launched from the original movie, the soundtrack music. It's crazy. But I won't waste any more of your time. Right after this word from Four Wheel Online, we'll get to Mr. Jimmy Jett of Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. Jhae Pfenning here, and I want to tell you guys about Four Wheel Online. For over a decade, Four Wheel Online has been bringing the best truck accessories and truck parts to enhance the appearance and performance of all trucks and SUVs. They are dedicated to providing an extensive range of upgrades that will match any maker model on the road. Their truck products cover everything you need to give your truck a custom look and added functionality. And if you need a tire and wheel package, head over and use the configuration tool. They carry all the major brands of wheels and tires, so go get outfitted today. So visit them online at 4Wheel or call them at 813-769-2451. Again, that's 4Wheel Online, the number 4 Wheel Online. This conversation is brought to you by the Cell Shop, an Arizona-based retailer that strives to be your destination of choice for wireless services, whether Arizona or Washington State. They are an authorized AT&T detailer, so visit them at cellshop.us, that's CELLSHOP.us, and get connected today. With over 300 episodes, top 1% of all podcasts according to listennotes.com, which means they're at least 40,000 better than I am. 26,000 subs on YouTube. Mr. Snail Armor, Snail Trail 4x4, Jimmy Jett. What's up?
How's it going today?
It's going good. Hopefully I didn't get any of that stuff wrong. I'm probably a little low on some of those numbers.
They're close enough. I'm not too particular on those things. It doesn't matter that much. I think we're about to release 300 coming up here. And, I don't know when you're going to release this episode. But, yeah, in the next few days, we're releasing our 300th episode. And then, yeah, I'm somewhere around 26,275 videos on YouTube or something. Yeah.
That's a pretty exact number on the videos. Snail Trail 4x4. So we've connected on Instagram back and forth.
Yep.
I don't know if it was on some forum or if it was like Clubhouse or something.
It was we originally crossed paths on Clubhouse in a podcasting room. Yeah.
Do you still do Clubhouse?
No, I do not.
I think it's still a thing. I haven't logged into Clubhouse in months.
Yeah. I was looking at trying to figure out if there was a way for me to figure out, like, get 4x4ing content onto Clubhouse, and I didn't see it as a good avenue.
I found it difficult to really connect. It was almost more of a, I love you too. Everybody, let's love each other and follow these 10 people on stage, and none of them are going to follow you back. And I was just like, I met some cool people on there. Obviously, that's how we kind of connected initially. It's just, I don't know. For me, it didn't work. I'm sure it works for a lot of people, but I'm glad we at least connected on there, which brings us to where we are today.
Yeah, exactly. I think Clubhouse was a great spot for those that are trying to teach, like, how to do better podcasting or how to do better YouTubes or how to be a better speaker, but at least for in the off-road scene of trying to teach somebody how to, be a better wheeler, it wasn't really a good avenue. You need way more visuals than two people 100%. Talking. Mm-hmm.
I used to join one called like Ask the Experts podcasters on lunch hour, and I would listen and I'm like, what makes you the experts?
Yeah.
And then I'd kind of go around and like kind of like podcast creep on them, like look them up and look up their stats and listen to them. I'm like, good, terrible, shitty, worst thing ever. What makes you the experts? But yeah. No, I agree. It was a good audio format, but as far as visual for something like what you do, 100%.
Yeah, I did feel there was a few times. I agree with you. There was definitely a few times when I was like, so you have 40 episodes on podcasting out and you're talking about how to become a better podcaster.
Right.
And, it's like I'm running into the problem where we have more than 300. We have like 325 episodes, and iTunes only shows you 300 episodes. So we are like 0 through 25 aren't showing up anymore. So we're now making a season 1, of like that'll have maybe the first 100 episodes, and then our current one that we're doing right now, we'll have from 100 to, 300-ish. So it's, like I want that answer. How many people can answer that? And it's like, right. I'm reaching out to these, some of these large podcasters that have, 500 episodes that are showing it on iTunes. And I'm like, hey, help me out. I know I'm a small fry compared to, you guys, but you figured this answer out. And, I don't know how to answer that yet. And those people on Clubhouse are with 40 episodes, are like, I don't know. I mean, it shows 300. I'm going to get there in a few years.
No, that's funny. I've seen people number 562, but I haven't scrolled back to see where the bottom 200 of them are.
Right. Yeah. Usually on a lot of platforms, it'll say, like they're on, it'll say their title 562, love and life, and it's a dream or whatever. But at the top, it'll say like, this podcast has X amount of episodes, and it'll, show how, if they only have 300 showing, it'll say 300 up top. So yeah.
Before we get into the details of who you are, because I want to know who you are. I've watched a couple of your old YouTubes. I found one that was like 1 year anniversary. I go, oh, you just started doing it a year ago? But I was like, oh, wait, he posted this in 2018.
Yeah.
So that was way more than a year ago.
That one.
But, you and Tyler Larson, I'm saying his last name right.
Yeah.
So the introduction, and I feel dumb for asking this based on the introduction to every episode.
Okay.
But is it truly just Toyota only? Because it seems like you guys talk about more, even though you have Toyos.
Yeah, we talk about Toyotas, and that's like our main focus. We do talk about a lot of other brands. Like we've had the discussion of the Rivian, kind of has been one that's been popping up recently. We talk about the new Jeeps, and whenever there's a change in that platform and their new motor that's coming out. And, we cover a lot of random topics, but we're primarily Toyota based.
Right.
And a lot of the topics that we'll cover in regards to off-roading, whether it's maintenance or repair, you can apply to any of your vehicles. So even though we're, talking about how to, pull out the drain plug on a 22 RE engine, that, learning how to find the drain plug and pull it out for you to do an oil change and how to do the oil changes, it'll work on any platform.
Is the 4Runner still the only SUV that's built on a truck platform, or do we have others?
No. I mean, The Sequoia is built on the Tundra platform.
No kidding.
And I believe the new 300 series Land Cruiser is on the Tundra platform as well, but we don't have the 300 here in America. Let's see. I don't know what the RAV4 is built on. I think the RAV4 is probably like a Camry chassis or something. I'm not positive. But the Tacoma and the 4Runners do share a very similar platform in regards to the frame.
Yeah, that's good to know. There was I had an Uber driver, and I was pointing out a 4Runner, and I was like, man, that's a nice looking vehicle right there. And he stared at it for like 30 seconds of silence, and then he gave us his opinion on him. That's the only one that did it. I was like, oh, maybe I know someone who I'm going to ask to kind of fact check that. But so we have basically that in the Sequoia, which is it's interesting. So I could go buy a Sequoia and go off roading with it. With maybe a couple mods. It's very capable, obviously, because it's built off the Tundra, which can pull a space shuttle.
Yeah,
deal.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
I saw
that
that
was a
video.
commercial like 10 years ago.
Right? Yeah,
shit like that sticks in your head.
It does, definitely. Yeah, we were just talking to Ironman 4x4, and they were saying how the new Land Cruiser is out all over the world, and it shares the same platform as the Tundra, the new Tundra that's coming out, the 2022 Tundra. And so they've already putting in new shocks and testing geometry and preloads and rebounds is pretty much sort of dialed for the Land Cruiser. So when the Tundra comes out here, they already kind of have the platform set up. They just need to modify some of the rebound and suspension work to make sure that it works, so that, they're already kind of covering their bases that way. So it's neat to have a platform that covers, like the Tundra frame works for the Land Cruiser and the Sequoia. And, and then you get companies that build platforms for all three of those as easily as just building it for one.
So we're done with the Land Cruiser here, right? But is it going everywhere else in the world? Kind of like you have the Toyota Helix that we're never gonna get here.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, the Land Cruiser for some odd reason they killed it in America. It's done, but it is. I mean, it's right now. It's released in the Middle East, and I think it's released in Australia, and I'm not sure if it's anywhere else out there. But yeah, and then I don't. The Tundra might only be an American version of a truck, where the Hilux, is everywhere else in the world but America.
Oh, it's Hilux. I'm calling it Helix.
Yeah, same difference. People say
but if you say Hilux, Mr. 4x4, it's Hilux.
Yeah, I say Hilux. I'll probably get corrected though. We'll see.
I doubt it. Hilux, Helix, tomato. No. When it comes to proper names, it can only be that name, in my opinion.
Sounds good. We'll go with Hilux.
Yeah. Talk to me about the podcast in general. I mean, you guys started 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Why did you guys start?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. So we originally started on another podcast called the High Sierra 4x4 podcast, and they were all Jeeps, 100%, like Jeep owners, like buy a Jeep, throw full 1 ton axles underneath it and throw 40s on it. And that's your Jeep and go out and wheel. And they were slowly fading away, we'll say. And we realized it, and we knew they were in the area close to us in the Sacramento area. And so we reached out, or my buddy Tyler, my co-host Tyler, was on their podcast. I think he was on like number 250 or somewhere pretty high up there. And then we got to talking with him about, hey, let's relieve some of your stress. Like, let us do every other episode, and we'll do Toyota content. And then that way you can have different content on your platform. And they're like, yeah, that sounds great. And then eventually it turned into us doing every other episode, and they were just re-releasing old episodes that they had already talked about. And so we were like, hey, I think we're done, but I think we're going to start our own thing. It doesn't seem like you're really too much more interested in it. And they tried to, at one point they wanted us to take over their platform, and it was interesting. We went into discussions about it, but we also have our own brands. And so we didn't want multiple brands, affiliated with our name. So we eventually said, no, I think we're going to do our own thing. We're going to start the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast, because we already had the Snail Trail 4x4 YouTube channel. And then, yeah, that's sort of where it came from is, we got our baby steps or our training wheels with this other podcast. And then we jumped into doing them ourselves. And then our first few podcasts were going 2.5 hour long podcasts where we do a lot of talking about a main topic and then we'll talk about what we've been doing. And eventually we said, well, let's just split this into 2 episodes and we'll do a main topic and then we'll talk about what the heck we've been up to. And that's pretty much how we blasted up to around 300 episodes, even though we've only been doing it just over 3 years, I think, on our own. But doing 2 a week really makes it seem like we got a lot of episodes out there in a short amount of time. How
have you avoided podcast fatigue?
I think that relying on a co-host really helps. And, sometimes I will be tired or not have an idea and he'll come forth with energy and have an idea of what we want to talk about. And then vice versa, he'll be tired and, I don't know what we want to talk about this week. And then I'll be like, well, I have this idea and this idea and this idea. Let's figure something out. And I do think that, that helps a lot. Definitely. If you have somebody to, banter with or bad ideas back and forth against that, that's a big help. And I don't know why we haven't ran out of ideas on what to talk about. For some reason, we all, we're 150 episodes of main topics, and there's still things we want to talk about. Like we've never really had a tire sponsor or a tire, I said sponsor, but I meant more like a podcast based on tires and talking about tires and the makeup of tires and, the rubber compounds and how to figure, figure out the lug size of a, changing from a 33 to a 42, and all these questions we have about tires. And like, we've never had anybody to talk to, in regards to that. And so that's one of the things we're working on right now. And, there's just endless amount of questions, and there's a whole bunch of like racing. There's a lot of off-road racing. There's the King of the Hammers. There's Ultra 4 racing. There's wee rocks, rock crawling. So there's just a lot that goes on in the off-road community that continues to light a flame under our rear ends, I guess.
How would you describe your relationship? Because when I listen to you guys, you're completely opposite personality type. I mean, obviously you're both 4x4 driven. You've been doing this for years together, and even before you did Snail Trail when you were doing the other one, how do you guys meld? Because you sound completely different. Is he more the technical as far as computer and IT? Because when you go to the website, everything has his name on it.
Yeah, for the most part, he, to some extent, we're both marketing guys. We both grew up, or like our day jobs were marketing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so we have that as our backgrounds. He's definitely more on the technical side than I am. I'm more on the fabrication side, I think, a little bit than he is, though he's quickly catching up to me. Sure. He's building some really cool stuff right now in the shop. But, it's like he didn't know how to pull apart an axle, and I was one of the first person that showed him how to do that. So, but yeah, so I think that we kind of have, we differ in those aspects, but because of that, we've helped feed each other, and build each other up, one way or another. Whereas, I'm more of a graphic designer and he was more of the marketing. And so we can both work together on that aspect. And yeah, I think that, his name's on a lot of the podcasting side of on our website. But, if you go to the YouTube, blogs or whatever, my name's on that one. So yeah, I don't know. I think that we have beneficial complementary features, or I don't know what, like qualities that help us, in the podcasting and YouTube scene and marketing and business, because we both have our own businesses now too.
Cool. Well, have you heard about Anchor?
The podcasting platform?
Yeah, we're going to talk about it right now. And when we get back, we're going to finish this conversation.
Good. Teach me about Anchor.
All right. So here's the deal. Talk to me about Snail Trail, the name, because I've heard Snail Trail before, and it had nothing to do with 4x4ing.
No, it definitely doesn't. And to be bluntly honest, I had no idea what the Urban Dictionary form of that word was before.
A lot of people probably don't.
I started this. Originally it was like we go slow. We don't like rock crawling. You could hike the trail faster than you could drive the trail. Like we go 1 mile an hour, maybe average across the trail, like it's super slow. And so I wanted some sort of icon that represented going slow, and there's already a phenomenal company out there called Marlin Crawler that has a turtle. So I was like, well, can't use the turtle.
Right.
And so I fell into a snail. It was just another item that goes slow. And then I was like, well, when the snail crawls along, it leaves a gooey, nasty mess, a trail. And when we drive, we leave a trail of tracks from our tires. So, and then a friend of mine pointed out what the name meant. And I was like, yeah. I'll add 4x4 to the end.
Snail Trail podcast. People are like, oh, this is going to be great.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Rated X.
No, I think it's brilliant, actually, because I had a good laugh at it when I was looking at it. I was like, huh. But just as you described, when you watch the rock crawling, it's literally one front wheel, and then you have to bring along the rest because not only could you probably not go faster, but if you tried, your vehicle would just blow up and fall apart.
Yeah, to some extent. Yeah. Some vehicles are made to go fast. We got the King of the Hammers racers out there that, do 200 miles in a matter of hours and with rock crawling trails. Mine's not. Mine's definitely a crawler. It goes slow. I enjoy going out to the trails that have a technical aspect of off-roading, and I have to figure out how to get through this obstacle and, with the vehicle I have. And it takes me, quite a bit of time sometimes to look at it and figure out my line and how I want to go.
You're not saying a lot of ums or uhs. You've been doing this for a long time. How did you become better at your craft? Because a lot of people, they say, I don't know if I could podcast. I don't like listening to my own voice, blah, 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 blah. And we know we've been in a bunch of podcast groups. There's people who say, I don't edit. I don't even listen to my own stuff. It's more organic. It's more raw. It's more real. And I'm like, no, you don't have to heavily edit, but you have to at least understand what you're saying, because as a listener, I don't want to be your social experiment through audio. I want to have something good. Like, how have you gotten so fluid, I guess, over the years?
Yeah, that's also a great question in regards to just practice, I guess. A lot of repetition and, I guess starting with YouTube, you really watch what you do and watch what you say, and sometimes go over things 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times before you get an intro or an outro that you appreciate. So, yeah, I think that, in regards to YouTube, it was a great stepping stone for me to do podcasting. I mean, YouTube is way harder than doing podcasting. There's a video side of it that doesn't happen in podcast land. But I also go back and listen to all of my episodes and look at what I've said, and when I said something, how did I interrupt somebody? When am I saying or like or things like that? These little phrases that people put in there that allow a pause in the audio so they can think and figure out what they want to say next.
Do you ever send? Actually, I know you do, because we've sent them back and forth of voice notes. Do you listen to those back when you get done sending them?
No, I'd probably laugh at myself.
So my buddy Wes and I, we send them all day, every day, and every single voice note I send, I listen back to, because sometimes you can always read, and when the autocorrect happens, it's like, no, I meant for, not or. But when you send a voice, you can't see that. So I always kind of go back. It's like, hey, I know I sounded like an asshole. I wasn't trying to, things like that. But I think it's still kind of the same thing, right? You listen to your delivery, and it's funny when you're talking about something you're passionate about, you make less errors. When you have to come up with things on the fly, it's a lot of filler words, uhs,
Yeah, that makes sense. If you're talking about something you want to talk about or intimately, then you'll be able to flow. If you're, speaking out of your rear end, you're probably saying a few ums, uts, and whats, and what have yous.
Or if you're not prepared. Like, I give my wife shit all the time because she comes in and she's a banker, corporate banker, and she starts telling me stories about conversations that she's had with people and like, and I've tried to help her with it, and I start saying and she stops. She's like, you're a jerk. I go, no, I'm trying to help you here, because it's literally like I was talking to Jimmy Jett, and he's like, he grabbed his microphone and he was telling me about this, and so I said this, and he's like. I'm like, Jesus, man, it's like I just said it's just about becoming a better speaker, and I think you're really good at doing that, and it you can tell when you listen to your podcast, you can tell you guys are having a lot of fun doing it. I wanted you on here because, as I told you on social media, a group of my long friends and I decided to go, I'm giving him air quotes here, off-roading.
Okay.
Which I consider light off-roading. Big difference between that and true trails that are rated for hard 4x4 required versus two-wheel friendly, and even rock crawling. And then the ultimate, I guess Moab is probably the ultimate in the United States for everybody.
It's definitely up there. There's, I would say that there's trails across the nation or locations that are bucket list items for everybody. There's places on the East Coast that I want to go to, and there's people on the East Coast that want to come out here and do the Rubicon. So, yeah, but Moab is a bucket list item for a lot of people.
What's the craziest vehicle that you've seen work, or a platform? Because there's always somebody who puts some crazy shit together. I think there's a dually off-road, Hellcat or something just ridiculously stupid. But as far as you can look at something, you're like, that RAV4 would never work. And you get out there on the trails and all of a sudden you see 50 RAV4s and you're like, I didn't think that would work. What's the craziest, most, I guess, common of the non-traditionals that you see out and about?
What's a really good non-traditional rock crawler?
Yeah, or something you never would have thought going into it. Because we all think, okay, Cherokee, right? Okay. We know Toyos can do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. No one really thought about the Suzuki Sidekick except for it can go anywhere you want it to go. Just sure. Maybe it's something you saw and you're like, I can't believe that worked.
Yeah, that I haven't thought of. That's a good one. Let's see. The Suzuki Samurais are great, but they're super
Samurai.
tiny.
I said Sidekick.
But the thing is that a lot of people steal things off the Sidekick and put it on their Samurai, so it's pretty much a Sidekick. I would say that and probably shooting myself in the foot here, the Jeep Wrangler platform is by far the most common off-road there is. I think the new Bronco is going to be outstanding off-road, but we don't see many of them yet. But they're
you know why, right? Let me interrupt you. You know why? Because people haven't paid them off yet.
Probably. Well, to some extent, yeah. And then you get the people that buy them and instantly cut all the suspension off and throw new stuff underneath. So,
yeah.
Nowadays it's a lot of Ford Raptors or Ford Rangers or the Chevy ZR2, which you don't normally see out there. Or maybe is there a ZR4? I don't know that Ford.
I just know, but yeah, because those examples, I always think of those as either city crawlers or work trucks, like the Home Depot job site trucks, not necessarily beginner trucks, but the contractor, the foreman. They want you to know that they have a little bit of pull, so they get the slightly nicer truck.
Yeah,
but I can't really see those crawling around either. But they're capable.
No, they're completely capable. And the Chevy Colorado now, I believe it even has the option to do front and rear lockers from the factory, which almost nobody, there's a few platforms that offer something like that. So, Chevy's definitely been upping their game on the off-road scene just for that.
When you lock your axle, can you explain to us what that does when you're going over terrain?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So there's really three ways to for gain traction on your axles, right? There's an open differential, so when one tire starts to spin, your drivetrain shoves all the power over to that one drivetrain. Then you have posi and limited slip, which kind of is the opposite. When one tire starts to spin, there's clutches inside the differential that throw the power to the other side that's not spinning. And then you have a locker, which there's mechanical, electrical, air lockers. There's a few different varieties. Okay. But what it does is let's talk about a mechanical run just to make things easy. When one tire starts to spin, it locks stuff up in the differential, and it makes both tires spin at the same rate at the same time. And so it completely locks the axle up and just allows you to get power on both sides at the same rate.
Does that cause more stress? Is that something like most people drive around unlocked then? There's probably vehicles, work trucks, things that are designed to do more than just go on the street that probably just come with that? Or is that something most people have to install aftermarket?
There's definitely vehicles that automatically come from the dealer. But most people don't really look at it unless they do a lot of off-roading or go have a work truck that goes off into, down a fire road and has to maintain power lines or something. They maybe are looking at it then. But if you're in the off-roading scene, you're purchasing vehicles that have lockers for the most part. That's, I bought a 2016 Tacoma, and I specifically bought the TRD off-road package because that's the one that came with the locker. And that's what when I go off-roading in that truck on my lightly off-road trails, throwing my air quotes back at you.
I've watched your videos. You're not lightly doing shit.
If that truck's only on 33s and has like a 2-inch lift, it's really my going out with the family overland kind of style rig. Where if I take out the 91 Toyota rock crawler on 37s and solid axle swapped, that one is trying to hit the hardest lines and drive over small Volkswagens or PT Cruisers or whatever.
I think I know what that looks like. So we went to this place called like Sheep's Bridge or whatever up here. Super fucking cool. But we're all struggling really slow going over these, taking our time. And, we have a Tacoma. I mean, yeah, we have two Tacomas, so they're capable. One of them's lifted, one of them isn't. We had an FJ Cruiser, which is, capable. And then we had a Porsche Cayenne, which was stock height, but it had, the tires. So for everything we were doing, everything that we brought was capable. But we're looking, and there's this Toyota coming at us, and he's probably going 30 miles an hour. We're going 5. The cab isn't moving at all. Just the suspension. Right. And we're like, that dude's got that. This isn't his first rodeo.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely people out there that build their rig for a specific purpose. And depending on which, trails they're going on or where they live geographically, you do design your rig differently. We just got back from Moab, and our rigs are not really designed for what Moab is. And we learned that by driving some of the trails out there, and we're tall. Like, our vehicles are taller than average for vehicles out in Moab, because out here in Northern California, we want to drive over big rocks.
Right. And
we need the belly height to, when we get over that rock, that we don't get ourselves stuck. Where in Moab, you're doing a lot of really steep climbs or somewhat off kilter, off camber turns. And when you're tall, that's you want to roll over, you want to tip. Yeah, exactly. And your center of gravity is much higher.
Yeah.
And so, it was an eye-opening experience. And next time we go out to Moab, I'm either going to try to figure out a different vehicle to take or figure out a way to lower my vehicle down so that I can go have some more fun out there on those trails.
So for us, like I have a street crawler. I have an Infiniti FX50S.
Okay.
V8 5.0 liter. I took it on a soft off-road course. I was the one holding everybody back because it's bottoming out. I said, I either need to raise this thing up 2 or 3 inches and put some more meat on the tires and get smaller wheels because it comes with stock 21s. So I'm thinking like 17 or 18s. I don't understand, and that's what I'm going to ask you. I don't know. People are like, oh, I got 33s. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I can tell you street wheels. I know what an 18-inch wheel is. I know what a 35 series tire is. When people start saying 30s, 33s, 37s, I assume it has something to do with the rubber, maybe, and the size of the tire. 33 inches tall, like I don't fucking know, but I wouldn't do that to my car. I was trying to decide whether I should turn it into like a fun, light rally, off-course, off-road thing, or just keep it as a street car. But if I wanted to, what are some of the basics? If I wanted to maybe move it up to maybe a Cayenne level to where we can maybe clear, what are some of the things I need to do? And then explain to me what this whole 33, 37, all that stuff is.
Yeah, that one's easy. That's just the diameter of your tire. So 33 inches is a 33-inch diameter tire.
Okay.
So it's straight and simple. And it's funny because the metric or the other system that it's out of my mind. I don't even know. When somebody goes, I got 270, 75, 17s, I'm like, I type it into Google and go, I like convert that to inches. Like what is that? Let's see. So in regards to going off-roading, well, first of all, I'd highly suggest if you're considering changing your rim size to go to 17, because there's more tires available for a 17-inch wheel than an 18-inch wheel.
Okay.
And then, and if you go down to 16.5 or 16, there's just more variety of opportunity for a 17-inch wheel, and I don't know why that is. I think a lot of people go in that area. When you get up to a 40-inch, then people start going to 20s or even a 42-inch.
I'm not trying to do Bigfoot or Bear Claw, whatever those things
are. Sure, right. If you're going off-roading, the first thing I always tell people to do is protection. Armor, either bumpers, rock sliders, or skid plates underneath your vehicle, because then you're a little bit more fearless in trying to go somewhere. Because if you have a skid plate underneath you, you're not going to be concerned about rolling over a rock and coming down on your transmission, and
snapping your oil filter
drive trains, or breaking into the oil pan if you don't have IFS. Let's see. So then, in regards to then lifting your vehicle, you do want bigger tires, and to fit bigger tires, you have to add a lift typically. If you're going to change your tire size, I don't know what you have in, your metric side is. Right. So I'm guessing you're somewhere around 31s, maybe even slightly smaller. But if you're going to lower your rim size, the benefit is you get more rubber between the rim and the top of the tire, or the rim and the bottom of the tire. And so then we air down like lower than anybody ever thinks to. I typically, my tires are weird. I have load range E tires on a really lightweight truck and no beadlocks, which is a mechanical, well, not mechanical, a way that we pinch the outside bead of a tire on the exterior of the rim, but then we have a metal piece that you seal the tire to the wheel, so that if you air down to like 5 PSI, it's not going to come off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then like Hummers have a double bead lock, so the inner and outer get locked into place. But most wheels, when you say it's a bead lock wheel, it's only the exterior bead that's locking into place. I don't know why it works, but my load range E Toyo tires, I take them down to 5 PSI, no bead locks, and they hold on. And I wouldn't suggest most people do that, but for some reason it works on my rig. But if you're taking your rig off and you have like little tiny rubber band tires, you can't air down
you can't do shit
20, 15, 10 PSI because then you're just going to bounce onto your rims. So the more rubber you can get between your wheel, it starts, and then the softer you can make it, it starts acting as another level of suspension.
Sure.
So you got your wheel tire combo taking some of the bouncing away, and then you go into your suspension, working as a suspension and softening your ride from there too.
A vehicle specific application or universal? Because I know that there's a lot of vehicle specific things for off-roading, but in some cases there isn't. I know in the aftermarket car world, universal applications are kind of frowned upon for a lot of things because they're universal. So you never know how well they're made, what you have to drill into them, and if you have to drill into them and you kind of sacrifice the structural integrity a little bit versus things that are vehicle specific. But I mean, are there any universal brands that you've seen that you're like, oh, all right, if that's all you got, that's cool? Or is it kind of like, if it's not vehicle specific, find another vehicle?
In regards to what avenue? I mean, are we talking about
suspension, like
adding suspension,
lowering kits, raising kits, heights, stuff like that? Because I've looked before and I'm like, I've had a buddy say, well, just look for this brand. I'm like, I typed in my vehicle for that brand and it came up, but then when I looked, it was universal. So I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to mess with that.
Yeah. I don't deal with universal stuff that often. I think most of the vehicles that I do work on is like they are specifically made for lifting that vehicle, and a lot of trucks have specific lift kits for them. I think you're in an interesting, going in an interesting direction where you're trying to possibly lift a vehicle that typically isn't ever lifted.
Right.
I think most people take your vehicle and want to slam it down and put it on airbags or something and, throw sparks out the back of it when they're dragging trail or a tail or something like that, So I think your only opportunity might be a universal kit because nobody probably makes something for it.
Should I? Because, I've done a lot of research, and as far as skid plates and things, that's something I would probably have to pay a fabricator good money to take care of for me because I just haven't seen a lot. Sometimes you can borrow things from other vehicles and kind of fabricate it to fit yours. You're a fabrication guy. What are some of the things you've had to fabricate that you could have bought, or would you, if you could buy it, you'd rather just buy it and not fabricate it?
Yeah, I have this argument with Tyler, my co-host, quite often. I would buy something that's already done because it just saves me time.
Yeah.
Where fabricating's fun and you learn every single time you fabricate something. But people have designed things specifically for whatever you're buying, and they've already done a lot of the legwork for you. And for me, it just is somewhat faster and saves me time if I just buy it and then I can move on to the next little project. So I usually lean towards the purchase over build if it's available for me.
So if I want to find, I've decided on that trail when we went to the Sheet Bridge. I kept talking to the driver and we were laughing about it the whole time. I feel like we spent an hour saying street build, off-road build. And we all decided the next time we do this, we're just going to rent a bunch of like Razors and because people were flying past us in those. But if I wanted to just pick up a sidecar, what should I get? What are the 3 vehicles I should look at? Because everybody's learning the secret now. Prices are going up. And just like I said earlier, the Suzuki, what I saw, the Sidekick, but it's really the Samurai, which, by the way, isn't the Sidekick kind of like that was like the primary competitor, I think, to like the Geo Tracker.
Yeah, they were like super similar. I think they might even have shared part of the platform.
And the Samurai looks kind of like a micro Wrangler.
Yeah. I think the Geo platform like leased the rights to use some part of Suzuki's platform for that collaboration. I'm not
probably.
sure.
They were very similar back in the day. When I was in high school, that's what all the chicks had that, and it was like, oh, cool, she's got a tracker, she has a Miata,
Yeah. Well, give me a price range. If you were gonna say go out and buy,
I want to drop $5,000 on somebody on probably a project someone's probably bailed on. That's probably all I'm going to be able to do, and then from there I'm going to scale up, obviously.
Sure. Okay. I would definitely look into, for $5,000 you're gonna find a junker.
Sure.
First of all, especially now, their prices are so high on anything that's somewhat decent. You're going to find something that's going to need a lot of love. So I would look for a Toyota.
Sure.
That's what I would look for. And if you can find, the golden year on a Toyota, which you will never find for $5,000, is a 1985 Toyota pickup. Because that was the last year of the solid front axle, and that's the first year that they came out with fuel injection.
That's the Back to the Future truck.
I think I need to confirm this, but I do think that the Back to the Future truck was a second gen, and I think it was an 86.
Okay, because the movie came out in 85, and it was brand new, so it probably was an 86. But
yeah, I'm not. I need to look. I should know that answer. But I would also say look at a Cherokee. Because an older school 4-liter Cherokee, those 4-liter motors will never die. They're a phenomenal motor. The only reason that I know of that they stopped making that 4-liter is because it was not feasible for smog anymore. But it's an excellent motor and it's bomb-proof. So those old school Cherokees are definitely good. They also come with a solid axle up into, I think they only ever made them in solid axle. I don't think a Cherokee had independent suspension. And so I like solid axles. Mainly it's a rougher ride, but the way that it works is when one tire is going up, the axle's forcing the other tire down. And so when you lift a tire or you're climbing a wall or a rock,
more grip because of the force.
The force is pushing the other tire down onto the ground so you can continue to get traction and continue to move. Where independent, you might limit some of your, you might be lifting and it's lifting your vehicle off the ground. That only that one tire is lifting, but you might not be getting all that force being pushing downwards on the other side. So I'm a fan of solid axles. Now, solid independent suspension is way smoother of a ride on fire roads or, desert out in the middle of nowhere. It's definitely, hands down, a better ride quality. It's just, if you want to level up your rock crawling game, you're going to be looking for solid axles.
I had a 2000 Cherokee Sport that I fucking hated.
Yeah, I had my very first vehicle when I was starting to learn how to drive was a 1984, 85 Cherokee, just an original blank Cherokee. And we turned that, it was my parents' vehicle, right? But we literally turned that vehicle into the government as a lemon. They paid us to take the vehicle off the road. It was so bad. And then we ended up getting a 90 Toyota pickup V6 with a 3.0. And that's where my
obsession
love for Toyotas came from.
Yeah, I had one wheel that spun. And when I put it in all-wheel drive or whatever mode, it just made this loudest noise, so I never kept it in there for more than 3 seconds because I probably bought it busted, but I don't know if that's just the way they were supposed to be. Loud, obnoxious? I wouldn't think so.
No. They're not. Well, they're not supposed to be.
Yeah, it made a lot of noise.
Well, and
turn that shit off real quick.
And that's another thing that people don't really think about. They say, if you just go out and you buy, you get an old school Cherokee, when you're in two-wheel drive, you really only are in one-wheel drive, right? You have one wheel pushing it, and depending on what you have in the differential that I talked about earlier, and typically they're open carriers, so it's only pushing on one side. Well, when you put it into four-wheel drive, it's now you got power going to the front, but you still only are one-wheel drive in the front, so you're only technically two wheels pushing. And that's when you need to really start adding the posi traction or a locker up in the front to get you all the tires spinning at once. Or you can do some brake tricks, like putting some power down, putting some brake pressure on, and it'll start throwing power to the other side because it's locking them up. So
yeah, I had to sell it because my son started driving, and we lived in Michigan, and I was like, this kid's gonna kill himself in this car. I can't even go around the corner in this one wheel because someone had lifted it. It looked awesome, but it just didn't. It just and I didn't know shit, so maybe I had to get on and pull a link thing out, and maybe it would have been doing the off-road thing. I have no idea. Or maybe someone just built it to make it look cool and had no idea what they were doing.
That's usually the case.
Yeah. Tell us about Snail Armor really quick. Is that all you?
Sure.
There's a lot of stuff that you have. Yeah. I'm like, I think this is this guy. I think this is this guy's, man.
Yeah. Snail Armor is me. So there's another company out there, and I'll just, that it makes a plastic tailgate cover. And I didn't want plastic. I use my tailgate as a tailgate, and I use my truck as a truck. And so I made an aluminum replacement for the wavy plastic tailgates for Tacomas because I go out camping, I use it as a workbench. I just, use the tailgate all the time, and the waviness of a tailgate, the tailgate panels that they put there on the Tacoma, it was horrible. My camp stove's feet were the perfectly wrong length to sit on the high side of that section. It was always at a funky angle sliding off. And so I drew up a pattern and got some my buddy had an aluminum cut out for me, and we started making prototypes, and I posted it up on social media, and I got a powder coat, but then I posted it up on social media, and people were like, "Hey, that's cool. I want one." And it sort of snowballed from there. And now, I'm selling, I have 3rd gen Tacomas, 2nd gen Tacomas, and 2nd gen Tundras tailgate panels. And I'm about to come out with 1st gen 4Runners, 2nd gen 4Runners, and Gladiators. Those will probably be out in a matter of months.
So I would think at this point, you went from fabricating it yourself to now you have people who can fabricate it for you using your design.
Yeah, exactly. I work with a company down in LA that laser cuts the panels out, and then and they buy the aluminum and everything for me. So they get that done. They ship it up here, up to Northern California, and I have another off-road company that is in the area that does all the powder coating for me. And then it comes back to me, and I do the laser etching on the panel, and I do custom laser etching whenever people reach out to me and say, like, you know, I want my own Instagram handle on there, or I'm a big fan of, you know, Pokemon or whatever, and then they want some design on there that's some Pokemon logo. And, you know, I just recently bought a laser etcher that's really massive, and I can do pretty much almost etch the entire panel now. So, you know, I've been doing some really intricate, cool designs lately.
And people can buy those at where?
Yeah, you can go to snailarmor.com and check out what's available for you. And if you want a custom one, it's probably best just to email me. And you can email me at jimmy@snailtrail4x4.com that I said earlier. And then we can work forward on a design that you would like. The hard part is people will like just straight up send me a JPEG picture, you know, with like 1,000 colors and different fades and things like that. And I can't etch that. It needs to be straight up black and white, you know, hard lines, no grayscale or anything. It just, you know, because all the laser does is it's just removing the paint and exposing the aluminum that's underneath.
It's got to basically be a coloring book drawing.
Yeah.
Right? It's just black lines and blank space for you to scribble across if you're 3 years old.
Yeah. I am working on trying to figure out if I can shoot some grayscale. It's now that I got a really fun laser, I'm figuring out how to take the laser beam, which, you know, is super thin, but I'm trying to figure out how to fade it down to nothing and see if I can start to create, like, have it not completely burn the paint away at some points, and see if I can figure out how to make grayscale happen. I'm also in talks with a silk screener and possibly be able to put color back onto the panel as well.
That's interesting. All right, Jimmy, thank you for your time today. Thank you for your patience as well.
Yeah, no problem.
And we'll be talking to you soon. I'm probably going to bug you a little bit more about this. And if anyone has any questions, I'll make sure I send them to you. Congratulations on all your success. Congratulations on doing something that you can call your own with the Snail Armor, and whoever knows, however many things you guys have going. Is this what you guys do now, essentially, or do you have like a 9 to 5?
Yeah, no, this is it. I do Snail Armor and Snail Trail 4x4, even though I haven't released a video in a while. Just life's been getting busy. I got married in the last year, and thank you. That now I have other responsibilities than sitting in a shop and playing. And then the podcast, and then my co-host Tyler makes Morphlate, which is a 4-tire inflation deflation device.
Got it. I've seen that too.
You just hook it all up to the tires and turn a ball valve, and it lets all the air out at once, and then you can go and hang out with your friends and talk to them while your vehicle's airing down, and you can bother them and ask them why they're leaning over a tire and having to work on one tire at a time, or pulling valve cores out. And then on the way, you know, the opposite side, you just connect it to all 4 tires, and then put the air compressor to it, and airs all 4 of them up at the same time, equalizes the tires. So it's actually, I'm talking with another YouTuber, Blake's Garage. He does a lot of BMW racing, autocross kind of stuff, and I'm trying to see if this might be of interest to him, because it equalizes the tires better, and it would make them exactly the same PSI, so that when he's driving around corners, it's, you know, he doesn't know if one tire is slightly lower than another tire, and we're going to play with that and see if that benefits him one way or another. But yeah, so that's Tyler's gig. He does Morphlates and then joins me on the podcast, and I do the Snail Armor, Snail Trail videos, and the podcast as well. And we've now moved away from our day jobs, and this is our full gig. Yeah, it's crazy.
They are the heterosexual power couple living the dream. Jimmy Jet, how can we get a hold of you?
Mainly, the best way probably is on Instagram, SnailTrail4x4. If you want to email me, if you're not a social media person, you can email me to jimmy@snailtrail4x4.com.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Want to thank Jimmy for coming on. Awesome guest. Had a good time. But yeah, he's right. We met in Clubhouse and just kind of followed each other. And it's kind of embarrassing, because I was like, hey, I did the off-road thing. I want to hit up. Who do I know? Oh, yeah, Snail Trail, duh. And I went into the DMs, and it was like a calendar year ago when I had hit him up last and told him that I would like to collab. Fortunately, he was still down. He's like, dude, let's do it. And I love that attitude, because if I were him, I'd be like, dude, screw you. You asked me like a year ago. I told you I was down, and now you want me on your show? F off, broski. But no, he's super cool, and I can't wait to talk to him again. I have questions, especially after this last weekend. So we recorded that a few weeks ago, but man, it's funny because I decided to make the Infinity a street car after bouncing around with Yoshi in his Tacoma, and I banged my head up against the side of the truck because I just wasn't paying attention when he went over the rock at the time. We had a good laugh about it, but it hurt. We had decided that day, no off-road. Fuck that. We're getting razors. We're getting Can-Ams. Moving forward, we're going to pay the $200 or $300 a day, however much it costs. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a lot better time. But I keep finding myself looking, especially after talking to Jimmy. Now I'm looking at, 17-inch wheels, because before I was looking at like 15, 16, 18-inch, because my car has 21s. The Infinity comes with stock 21s. And it's hard. After getting beat up, yet you're still looking. You're looking at the wheels online. You're looking at the 33s and the 36-inch tires, and get that universal lift kit, because there really is no aftermarket. And I posed a question online, and one of the people were like, "Oh, you need a Rubicon, and you need this." I'm like, bro, I don't have it like that. Or I wasn't asking, hey guys, what should I get that's more functional off-road than my Infinity, which is basically a street car. There's a ton of. First off, I wouldn't buy a Rubicon. Sure, they're cool. They're obviously capable. I would get a Toyota, get a 4Runner or a Tacoma. You got to get what the pros got. But then you can't get something you care too much about, because the guys who are really into it, they can't care about that shit. You get like he said, the rock guard on the bottom to prevent your oil pan from getting punctured and leaving you stranded. You got to get shit to protect your sides. I mean, Eric lost a few trim pieces in his Porsche Cayenne, which, by the way, speaking of Porsche Cayenne, afterwards when we got done, Jimmy said, you know what? The video you showed, the story of the Porsche Cayenne, that is one vehicle that I am super impressed with, that I never would have thought could have done even the things that it did with you guys. So that's a vehicle that he was super impressed with, that typically you wouldn't think could do some of this stuff. Thought I'd throw that in there. But yeah, you got to get all this stuff, and the Infinity doesn't have it. But when you get you get the steel fabricated front bumper and the rear bumper, and you get the winch, and you get the rock guards on the sides, whatever they're called, you can't care that much about your vehicle. If you care about the paint, you better PPF that shit, because when you're driving, you have to decide, am I going to go over the cliff, or am I going to brush up against this dry-ass tree and this dead-ass branch on the road? And no one's going off that cliff. My stuff has scratches on it from last December or November when I went off-roading, when I was the one that was holding everybody up, because my car wasn't made for that shit, although we made it through. You got to PPF the sides if you want to keep your paint nice, or get a vehicle that you just can't care that much about. You're going to put a lot more money into your suspension and your setup than you are your actual vehicle. That's the way to go. Getting ready to go out of town, thinking about taking the show on the road. Let me know. Should I take it on the road? Should I take my microphone? It's been a long time since I've recorded a podcast episode in a hotel room. I originally was doing that. That's how I passed the time. That's how this podcast started. And it's shitty quality, shitty audio, but I do have a Supreme microphone. I have much better equipment now. But you need to tell me. And you need to tell me fast, because I'm leaving Thursday morning. Should I take my microphone? Should I take my recording equipment with me? Or should I drop some of the old episodes as classics? I have not taken a podcast break since I started doing this weekly. Every week, I get my podcast out on Monday morning, or in this case, Tuesday, because of the holiday. Let me know. HardParkingPodcast@gmail.com. Let me know. If just 5 people reach out and say, take your show on the road, I'll do it. I'll take my show on the road. Where am I going? Toronto. I'll be in Toronto for 2.5 weeks. Toronto, Canada. Toronto, Ontario. We'll be visiting Bob Chat. That's right, Bob Chat, who you've heard on this show. And I will be going to his house to record in his studio for his show. We're going to spend the day together. Day date with Bob Chat, Mr. Bob Marshall. That's going down. Maybe I can sequester our interview and just use that on my show. I don't know. You guys tell me what you want. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. What do you think? Right Honda, right Toyota out of Scottsdale, Arizona. 4-Wheel Online, sellshop.us. And Fountain Hills Motorsports, Patreon business supporter Kuya Automotive out of Winter Garden, Florida. Pell Construction out of Caledonia, Michigan. I need to reach out to Mr. Kuya Automotive. I haven't heard from him in a long time, but he still supports the show. Probably forgot. I shouldn't remind him because then maybe he'll cancel the support. RJ, are you out there? Special thanks to Mark Stillman, Catherine Cox, Eddie Ramos, Richard Graves, Byron Jones, Bo Jung, Alice Kamina, and Drew Bunkley. Special shout out to Richard Graves, does a lap of the world YouTube. He and his wife Liz did a video about trying to get that new NSX Type S, and they were not successful, but they did a very good video about it anyway, and took a very practical approach to what happened for them, and it made a lot of sense. There's a lot of people out there complaining about cars. People complaining about the Porsche GT3s, how expensive they are, and it's all people do today is they complain about how much shit costs. Gas, it sucks, but we're all paying it. So shut up, buy it. It is what it is. The stock market crash sucks for everybody. Crypto sucks for everybody. If you're interested in picking up a podcast shirt, I do have them. I told you guys I was going to get them. I do have them. HardParkingPodcast@gmail.com. Shirts are $25 shipped. Continental U.S. If you're international, you have to pay international shipping. I ain't paying for that shit. I'm not giving you a shirt. But what I can say is 100% of the sales do go toward Right Honda and Right Toyota to fund a local humanitarian effort, which means I don't keep any of the money, and I'm glad because I want to make a difference, and they're helping me make that difference. So you get a super cool shirt. I'm a shirt snob. Very, very, very nice material. It's going to go toward a great cause. If you want to follow me on Instagram, follow me at Jhae Pfenning. That's JHAEPFENNING. Or Jhae Travels, JHAE_Travels. Join the Hard Parking Violations Facebook group. We don't bite. I don't bite. I don't bite that hard. Or just Facebook, Hard Parking Podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube, Hard Parking Podcast as well, or Hard Parking Media. Got the Tesla video out. Not a lot of people are watching it because people suck, but it's a really good video according to the people who have watched it. So make sure you check it out. Again, you have to go to the YouTube, Hard Parking Podcast, and look at the Tesla video. Because I can't grow without you telling the world how great this show is. So let's do this. Let's grow this thing together. And maybe I'll talk to you all next week. Or maybe you'll get the best of show. It's up to you.
A beater. Shut up!